I am back with another video. This video is part 2 of my Olympic National Park experience. I have been here multiple times. I can't get enough of this place. Here we go. This video is Olympic National Park Part 2. Hopefully you watched Part 1. If you have not, please watch it, because this video is going to pick up where that one left off, leaving Sol Duck Falls. And when you leave Sol Duck Falls, you're going to drive 33 miles to the town of Forks, Washington. The reason I bring up Forks is because, one, it is the only place where you can get gasoline if you've driven from Port Angeles. So it is a great place to fill up. It's also a full service town, good place to restock. 2, you go through the town of Forks on your way to Rialto Beach. Rialto Beach is a 14-mile drive from the town of Forks. It is one of the places in Olympic National Park that you want to experience. You may have heard me say in an earlier video, Olympic National Park has 73 miles of wilderness coastline. And what that means is it exists as it did hundreds of years ago. Before you walk out onto the beach, it is very important, I'm going to say this again, very important that you check the tide chart. You can look it up online. It is often posted at the ranger station there at a number of places. The reasons being should be obvious. However, let me state them. You can hike on this beach for miles. If the tide comes in, there are several places on this beach where you become trapped. That's not a good thing. The second thing is the beaches in Olympic National Park are known as the graveyard of the Pacific. These driftwood trees are everywhere. They're blown down in the winter storms which rage in this part of the world, and then they are washed out to sea, and then they are washed back ashore with the tide. Some of these trees are 1,000 years old. You can imagine walking along this beach and being hit by one of these trees. I hate to say it, but if that happens, probably going to be your last day with us. So, you can avoid all of that by understanding when the tide is going out and when the tide is coming in. Then you have a much better experience. As you hike along this boneyard beach, it reminds you of the power of water. The tide is no joke. Take it seriously. Someone might ask if you can swim in this part of the ocean. Looking at this, I don't know why you would ask that, but no. The water temperature here does not rise above 63 degrees. And we know that a water temperature below 70 degrees is not good for you. There's also the strong current and the rip tides. If it's carrying 1,000-year-old trees out into the ocean, can you imagine what it's going to do to a person? This is the place where you come and look at the ocean. You don't get in. When you look out into the ocean, you're going to see large rock formations. They are called sea stacks. The sea stacks were formed from volcanic rock beneath the ocean that were pushed to the surface during continental shift. Geologists tell us that that process took place some 18 million years ago. I would suggest that you spend a lot of time at Rialto Beach. I'd suggest you see it at high tide and low tide. I came out in the evening and saw it at high tide, came back in the morning during the low tide. Both were magnificent. From Rialto Beach and the Mora campground where I spent the night, I drove 45 miles to the Hoh Rain Forest. And before you all start making jokes, it's not that kind of rainforest. Stop. The Hoh Rain Forest is a perfect example of a temperate rainforest. It is the only temperate rainforest in the contiguous United States. And if you're wondering the difference between a temperate rainforest and a tropical rainforest, 1, a temperate rainforest is much cooler. 2, temperate rainforest experience all 4 seasons as opposed to tropical rainforests, which are much closer to the equator, that don't have the fluctuations in weather and temperature. You may have heard me say previously that Olympic National Park receives 12 feet of rainfall per year. Most of that happens here in the Hoh Rain Forest, and most of that rain falls between the months of November and April. So most people tend to avoid the park during those months. In addition to a campground, there are 3 trails in the Hoh Rain Forest. I would suggest that the first one you take be the Hall of Mosses. It is right next to the visitor center. It's a really short hike. It's only about a mile. It is stunning. Many of the trees are 1,000 years old. Even the down trees, which we call nurse trees, even as that tree has met its demise, it is still able to nurse and bring forth life. Even though the Hall of Mosses is very short, you can spend hours just admiring the forest. And I strongly suggest that you do that. It is incredible. I've also done the Spruce Trail. It is just a little longer than the Hall of Mosses trails. It is about 1.2 miles. There's also the Hoh River Trail. The Hoh River Trail is 18.5 miles long, and I'm going to tell you the truth, yeah, I wasn't really up to that. After you've spent a significant amount of time in the Hoh Rain Forest, I would suggest that you make the 32-mile drive south to Ruby Beach. Yes, we're back at the beach again. I did tell you that there were 73 miles of wild and wilderness coastline in Olympic National Park. Ruby Beach is a bit different from Rialto Beach in that Ruby Beach is much wider and longer than Rialto Beach. There is a lot more sand here. It is a quarter-mile hike from the parking lot down the forest trail to the beach. Once again, this is a boneyard beach, so you will have to climb over a series of logs to get to the beach. You may even have to cross a small stream. There again, check the tide chart, because if you go at high tide, you may not be able to get to the beach. Because I was here at low tide, I was able to hike out onto some of the sea stacks. And there I find tide pools. And in those tide pools, I find life forms. The first thing I see in the tide pools are these anemone. Anemones are carnivorous. They have stingers that are toxic to small fish. I don't know if they are toxic to humans. However, not a good idea to be the person to find out. So please look and don't touch. In the same place as the anemone, I see starfish. Not to sound like super nerd here, but this is really fascinating to me. Something that I did not know is that starfish are not fish at all. They have no blood in their bodies. They have no brains. They are invertebrates. They can reproduce a tentacle. There was a ranger out in the tide pools probably making sure that people didn't do stupid things like try and pick up the anemone. And I asked her, I said, well, is there a difference between the purple starfish and the orange starfish? And she said, no, there really isn't an answer for that. They're all still the same. Starfish will move around throughout the ocean. However, they find themselves either at the bottom of the ocean or on tide pools. They survive in salt water only. I walked around in fascination just looking at starfish and anemone until the tide started to come in. I would have stayed longer if I could. I spent the night at the Kalala campground in hopes that the sky would clear enough for me to go out and photograph the stars. Given that this place gets tons of clouds and rain, I did not have high hopes. However, the low tide was at 3 a.m. and it also happens that the sky cleared up. So I hiked back down to Ruby Beach and was able to see the Milky Way over the Pacific Ocean and the sea stacks. And I cannot tell you how happy I was with the moment. After a couple hours, I realized it was time for me to hike back. Only issue I had was finding the trailhead back to the parking lot in the dark. So the next time, I would take a glow stick with me and tie it to a tree or a shrub near that opening, because I walked around out here for about 20 minutes in the dark trying to find a trailhead. Not smart. I thoroughly enjoy bringing this content to you. And if you like this sort of thing, please click that like and subscribe button, and also share this channel with your friends. After spending most of the night on Ruby Beach, like many of my trips, I can't wait to come back and do all of this all over again. But until then, I will leave you with these. Thank you for watching. I'll be posting another video soon. Please tune in.